So how did you end up coming to creating almost the graphic novel type of thing to talk about research methodology?
I was a cartoonist. I went to Grinnell College in Iowa, and which I attended sight unseen. I was living in Hawaii at the time. I went to Punahou School. Me and Barack Obama went to Punahou School, and not at the same time, but that's my one claim to fame. And I went to Iowa sight unseen, and because Grinnell was such a fantastic experience, it continues to be very present in my life, and I learned stuff there that I continue to use. And while I was there, I needed a job, and I could draw, and people knew I could draw, and so I worked for the school paper, the Scarlet and Black. And I had never had any classical training, and the wait lists were so long for the studio classes, I gave up on an art major, and I majored in classics and then in English. And my cartoon was really well received. People thought it was really funny, and really well done. And then I was nominated for the Charles Schulz in 1994, which is the award that's given to the college editorial cartoonist. I was later told that I won, but I never received any communication about that. So I don't know. I don't feel right claiming it. But
you know what? I think you should just
I
go
think
with
you should
it.
say I won the Charles Schulz in 1994, and I was pretty famous there for a while, and my cartoon was picked up a couple times and run, and but about halfway through college, I started working at the college preschool, and this was it. I could draw, and that was great, but that was it. That was it. I remember this little kid, Henry Bateman, who wore a Snuggly, like one of those little baby carriers, and he always had a bear in it, and he'd come to school with his bear and his Snuggly. And I remember thinking, how did his parents, how did he come up with that? And I remember just these questions about what they were doing and the things they were afraid of. And I came from the Mr. Rogers School of honoring every fear, and I was just totally into it. And I took classes on social justice and spirituality, and I saw that as, I'm going to teach, I'm going to change the world. And I became a teacher. I went to Colorado, became a teacher with that. I did a lot of art with my students. Because that's how I think in pictures. I did my teaching portfolio in cartoons, and I just kept working with it. And then when I went back to get my PhD at Colorado, I had this idea, I think, that, I'm going to be a researcher now, which basically means I have to be like an old white dude in a suit, and I have to dress that way and act that way and think that way and throw around the word policy a lot because that's sexy. And I tried, and it didn't feel right, and I felt like I was in drag, and it was just not working. And then Mark E. Lecomte said, you don't have to be this way. You can bring yourself, all of yourself, to this work, and it will be better, and you will feel better about it. And she said, I think you should draw some pictures. And so I did. And about halfway through graduate school, I got a contract from Altamira to do the Shane book. And I finished it, and then it went into press my first year as a faculty member.
Wow.
And it did so well. I was really astounded at how well it did, because it was a teaching text. It was, this is how you do, this is what it is and how you do it. And then they, Left Coast Press, Mitch Allen is my editor there, and I love you, Mitch, so much. I owe him a manuscript. It's late, like by a year, so I really love you. He picked it up and said he wanted me to do one on data analysis, which was useful for me because nobody ever really taught me how to do data analysis. I kind of had this idea that qualitative data analysis, you took your clothes off and rolled in your data, and then you had great truths, and that was how it worked. And so by writing the book, I had to, I was teaching that course by that point, and so it was really useful for me. And that book was, I think I'm really proud of it. I think it's the best one I've written of the three. And now I'm working on a third one, also with Left Coast Press, on research with children. So a lot of the things we've talked about. Looking at everything from this is what it feels like when you have lice, because I've gotten lice a million times, and to this is why the IRB stages research with children in this way, and this is why you should do it, to let's get inside our headspace and think about how to reframe how you think about kids. So you're not telling the twee stories about how cute they are, you're really, really watching them and paying attention to the serious work of childhood. So I'm working on that. And it takes a lot longer. I wrote Wise and Foolish Virgins, which is my actual prose book with something I produced with no pictures in it, which is very unusual. Even my dissertation had pictures in it. And that I wrote in 3 months because I was just typing. It was so easy. But the cartoon books take, if you make a mistake, you redraw the whole panel. And I'm kind of experimenting with some ways to use technology to make it a little bit easier, but I'm definitely old school, so they take a long time. But because it takes so long and because they're distilled in that way, I think they're really, it's every page counts. Everything is vetted. And so I'm very proud of those books. I think they're very funny. And I think, as my grandmother would say, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And so it's the honey. You gotta make it funny, you gotta make it useful. I like to make it something that's a teaching text, and I'm teaching with the data analysis text right now in my qualitative data analysis course, and it's working for me.
Yeah.
It's really working for me. So
cool.
Anyway, it's a very long answer to your question.
No, that's great.
Yeah. And I like to do arts-based research as well. And something I'm going to talk about a little bit later during my visit here is looking at how we can use the arts with children as a way to get them to engage with big questions.